in 2023. Remember, when we rested this show in December last year, 2022, we promised to come, with something, come up with something different, in the new year, that is 2023. And talking about something different, definitely we were looking at something that speaks to the realities that we are contending with as a world, as an economy, as a country today, and that's none other than climate change. Everyone has felt it, and from a macro level, a broader perspective, today, if you look at the key economic fundamentals of Uganda, for instance, one of them being inflation. Everyone has been talking about the double-digit inflation that we are contending with. Now, it seems to be an issue discussed in the boardrooms and became an issue that all of us felt in our pockets, in our households. I mean, one of the drivers that a number of experts have pointed out as, one of the aspects driving this inflation is actually food prices. And if you know the cost of a bunch of matoke, really, you know what I'm talking about. And for the first time, we saw the prices of posho almost moving at the same level as the price of rice. Now, that had never happened in Uganda. And all these are speaking to one thing that happened before, and that was the long dry spell. Now, if you to work backwards and try to find the reasons why this happened, again, you relate it to failure of rains to come in time, and then climate change comes into the picture. And before climate change, of course, it comes down to our activities, especially people that sit within the agribusiness subsector. How do we, or how have we conducted ourselves? And again, many reasons are responsible for that. So today's show is specifically dedicated to looking at how do we make agriculture, or agribusiness for that matter, resilient. And that's why in the studio today I have very, very esteemed gentlemen that are going to be sharing with us what is being done, the initiatives that are being done. But before I go there, I would like to introduce our resident coach and the partner, Enterprise Uganda, and of course the executive director in the house. Charles, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I'm very delighted that we are resuming this beautiful Business X-Ray show.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Mm-hmm. So without any further ado, I'll introduce the group CEO, the CEO of ABI Development Limited. John, we're happy to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, John didn't travel alone today. He didn't come alone on the set. He came with another guest. Richard, I request you to greet the viewers and introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, viewers. Richard Mwesigu is my name, and I'm the Sustainability Specialist, ABI Development Limited. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Charles, before we delve into the discussion, we began 2023.
Yes.
Of course, I try to look at the year with a pair of glasses that looks at climate change and the economy. I don't know what has intrigued you, what has touched you before we go into our topic for the afternoon.
No, for this afternoon, I think many Ugandans will relate to the variability of weather. We can no longer predict it. Yeah. Sometimes the weatherman will tell you, plant. A little later, it tells you, by the way, the rains may not be sustainable. As you are responding to that one, the next minute it is a flood. And Ugandans are beginning to appreciate that things are not predictable anymore. And I think that's why this kind of partnership with ABI Development and a show like this should become a common destiny for everybody on Sunday, to just listen and see what it means to sustainably get agribusiness solutions that we need, but at the same time retaining the predictability of our environment, short of which we are going to have a lot of chaos, and most developing countries are not prepared for this kind of chaos.
I hear you. John, let me come to you, because I know as ABI, this is an area that is quite passionate to you. So I want to come to you, one, looking at what you have in stock, for the economy, for Ugandans, as regards this reality we are contending with. But before we go there, I don't want to assume that everyone who is watching us actually knows what ABI is. So let's begin there.
Okay. The Agribusiness Development Initiative is actually founded in 2010 by the governments of Uganda and the government of Denmark. It is a social enterprise that channels development funding to agribusinesses and agricultural social enterprises. And basically this is to actually develop a strong, profitable, sustainable and competitive agricultural sector in Uganda. We support 7 value chains, and this includes cereals, pulses, horticulture, coffee, poultry, and also in addition to that, we also support
Is dairy there?
dairy, yes.
I think that is one of them,
Dairy as
yes.
well. Yeah.
Okay.
And basically what we do is we provide implementing partners with matching grants and business development services to be able to achieve their objectives.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of support, how does it come about? I mean, it comes in what kind of form? If you can break that down for us a bit.
Could you please repeat the question?
The kind of support that you give to the different
The matching grant.
yes, players in the agribusiness sector. How does, in what form does it normally come?
So it comes mostly in the form of grants.
Okay.
It comes in the form of grants and also technical assistance through provision of business development services.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Ah, beautiful. Now, Richard, I think I'll move to you on this. So, in terms of impact, again, and I think John will also touch this a bit. What has been, you know, your impact as, like John put it, you know, supporters of the sector, of course, through matching grants and you know, the kind of interventions that you've come up with?
Okay, thank you.
Since 2010.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Charles. And first of all, I'm delighted to be on this discussion. And I hope I'll be a regular visitor to also share my experience.
We can't wait to have you as a regular.
Yes. Since 2010, obviously, ABI has had a great impact. First of all, on the last mile farmer, but also the SMEs, whom we channel our matching grants through to reach the farmer, but also other stakeholders, that create a positive impact, in the agribusiness sector. We've seen the reach, in terms of the matching grants, in terms of trainings, in terms of capacity building, over 300,000 farmers reached, and this has been reached by over 309 billion USD, no, Ugandan shillings actually. So usually our grants, our matching grants are in Ugandan shillings, although we get this money in other currencies.
Yes.
So yes, we have seen a great reach, and seeing businesses or SMEs improve their production systems, improve their production in terms of volumes, improve exports, loss of incomes coming in. So it's actually a great impact that we are seeing, and we hope we are able to do much more in the coming times, especially when we are seeing some of these benefits kind of trying to reduce because of the effects of climate change. But we are trying as much as possible to make our farmers and other beneficiaries resilient as much as possible, so that they are able to produce and maintain their volumes, or even enhance, because some of these interventions we are trying to promote actually enhance production and productivity at the farm level.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Good. John, anything you want to add on the impact before I bring in Charles?
Yeah, in terms of impact, we've actually funded about 328 projects. And out of those projects, we've been able to reach 2.2 million farmers, with areas under acreage of about 2.8 million acres as well. We've also been able to create an additional 159,000 jobs. And the beneficiaries we've actually been able to work with, they've been able to have additional income of about 957 billion shillings. So this is from 2010, and this has mostly been the impact that we've been able to achieve.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Charles, I'll come to you on that, because I know you work a lot with people of all walks of life, but now we're talking about someone right from the grassroots. Because when John here mentions the millions reached, and Richard, I mean, I'm tempted to, ask this question, how you visualize from the area where you sit as a BDS
exactly
expert. the impact of this and what it means, you know, for our entrepreneurs, our people. But most importantly, our SM is who are keenly watching this show.
It's a beautiful opportunity to be associating with ABI development in these discussions. Because in the developing countries and Uganda as well, one of the most talked about sources of capital is grants. And grants are a two-edged sword. If you give a grant without educating the consumer that this grant is supposed to accelerate you, as opposed to pick you when you're idle and useless, you've destroyed that person. What does he do? He repeats the same things that you heard about him that cost you to give him a grant. You know I'm a widow. You know I'm a young person. You know they don't give me land title. You know no bank will touch me. He will pick that repeatedly. If you want to know that a grant has caused a difference, the grant giver, after receiving the support, should perform far better than he used to be. And when you look at the statistics that have just been shared here, they paint exactly that picture. You got people who were moving at a certain pace. You injected a grant and also provided business development services, and the speed picked up faster. So I think that's what I want Ugandans to recognize, that in this country and in Africa, we're philanthropic. We like to support others. But we do not address that aspect of saying a grant is supposed to be an accelerator, not ignition key. If the grant becomes an ignition key, you have a car you are going to keep pushing and pushing and you'll be in trouble.
I hear you.
So I really love the way ABI has come to share what they have done, because it's happening in Uganda. The numbers are large. The figures are huge. And they are not in a certain hidden cloud. They are right here in our country. So I believe, John and Richard, I'm really proud that we can get to this platform, because it's a platform that is heavily watched, but it's also a platform that can demystify some of the theories people have talked about, the poor people. These poor fellows have certain resources. But the way you've done it, to me, is even more impressive. You are pushing somebody and telling him, you are in the coffee value chain. The coffee value chain ends up in international market. If you don't meet those standards, get out. Nobody will sympathize with you and say, oh, sorry, these are widows. Please, let them be in the coffee value chain for the sake of being widows. Never. So by the time you adopt a value chain approach, there is a value chain anchor at the end of the value chain who says, I can only take a quality of this standard. If you can achieve that by the interventions you can have in between there, bring me a widow, bring me a youth, bring me a Ugandan, bring me anybody, I'm not bothered. The value chain must end up meeting the minimum standards in that kind of intervention.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm really, and you can see the numbers how big they are. In this country, we feel, John, we think that we have never had donations going on. They're happening at family level, brother to sister, political level, church level, but the impact is the person who donated a goat last year, today can't even have a hen. The person who donated the ox plow with the 2 bulls, he said, I sold them because I had issues. Can you get me again 2 bulls?
And you expect it to understand.
Yes, and they will explain the other story that made you to join them. So I want the ABI story to resonate with this country, because it exists across the country. They can be talked to. They can be approached by anybody, a politician, a church, whoever. Go and meet them.
Thank you, Charles. John, let me come back to you. And again, before I move any further, I really wanted you to speak, you know, to this collaboration, you know, between ABI and BDS, you know, support institutions like Enterprise Uganda, and of course the participation on this forum. Because besides, you know, meeting people face to face in a forum, that kind of thing, I think Enterprise Uganda saw it fit that in order to reach more, because I need to tell you that we have quite a number of Ugandans in the diaspora as well, watching this show even as we're having it, you know, happening now. So what prompted, from where you sit, the collaboration between ABI and a BDS provider like Enterprise Uganda?
This particular collaboration is very important. For example, there is a lot of initiatives on green finance and green investments that a lot of people, particularly agribusinesses in Uganda, would like to access. But they are not able to access them because they need the capacity building to be able to access those particular initiatives. So the partnership between Uganda Enterprise and ABI Development in building those capacities to be able to have those agribusinesses is very important. And this particular forum is an example of such, because it has a wide reach and it provides people with the information they need to be able to move in the right direction. Yeah.
I hear you.
Maybe I can add that it's not the two institutions, but also NTV. You know, we know the reach NTV can go.
And that's the platform.
And surely we are looking at all categories of stakeholders. The farmers, the SMEs, the development partners, other actors, NGOs and others. And I think it's only NTV which can offer this platform, which we are actually benefiting from now. So this kind of tripartite partnership, to me, brings this, market leaders, on the forefront to, first of all, share this information and make sure it reaches our bigger audience that we are looking up to, to receive this information.
Great, great, great.
Thank you.
Now let's go into the beef, and I don't want to release you, Richard, on this one. The issue of green investment. I don't know. I see quite a lot of interest. Please allow me, if I get tempted, to term it obsession. What is prompting this from the ABI side of things?
Okay. Thank you, Charles, once again. I must say that you have seen what is happening to our economy generally, and particularly to the agriculture sector, how it has been made vulnerable to climate impacts. A lot of these extremes, prolonged drought, erratic and unpredictable rainfalls, all come at play at different times of the year. And they are not expected, you can't plan for them. And agriculture being our, we call it the backbone of our economy, where most of, over 80% of our population depends. It's the most affected. And agriculture is actually ABI Development's business. We are existing because of agriculture. And so anything that affects agriculture actually affects our DNA in this regard. So we've been supporting the sector, as you had, since 2010. And the support has been, the conventional support, stimulate business growth, market systems development. But over time, we are registering a lot of decline in the growth of the agriculture sector. And one of the major causes of this is the unpredictable weather patterns. You can't plan, you don't know when to plant, when to harvest, because in between there, unexpected weather pattern will come. Either prolonged drought, either too much rainfall. We've seen floods coming and washing all the gardens. We have quite a number of our implementing partners who, of course, they work with farmers. So these partners are engaging with farmers. They have given them seed. They have given them all the inputs. And of course, in return, they're expecting to buy of this produce, increase their sales and, incomes and, up to the end of the story. But at the end of the day, too much rain has come, wash away the gardens. Or sometimes, too much, prolonged droughts come, burn all the crops to zero. So at the end of the day, you find the partner is reporting more or less nothing, yet they have invested, they have done all they are supposed to do. But because of the weather, which is sometimes beyond their control, because they have not planned for it, then they are negatively affected. So these green investments that we are fronting now, yes, we've been supporting some of these for sure, but now we have to be more intentional. because we have been luxury doing this and we haven't seen much impact. But now we are saying, let's be more intentional. Let's support all actors in the sector, not only the farmers, not only the SMEs, but all the other stakeholders who actually create positive impact in this regard. Let's interest them to go green, invest in green investments, support those who are at the farm level, to produce in mind that they must be resilient to any unforeseen, challenges. If you are a farmer, you must be ready to survive through the drought period, for instance. And how do you do this? So these are the green investments we are talking about. It could be one, irrigation, it could be planting, say, drought-resistant seed, also maybe pest-resistant, because climate change also comes with other challenges, increased pests and diseases, increased so many things. So we are looking at how we can make our farmers as resilient as possible, but also try as much as possible to make sure that our production systems are not contributing, to the emissions,
worsening the situation.
Worsening the situations. Because so it's a two-way kind of arrangement where we want to have the farmers sail through, and of course the SMEs and other actors, but also minimize or limit these greenhouse gases escaping into the atmosphere.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Viewers, you can be part of this show, and as usual, of course, we're going to flash that number, the WhatsApp number on the screen, where you can send in your comments, questions, and suggestions. Of course, in the studio today, we have Abby in the house. Now, those who didn't really appreciate what Abby is and has done for the agribusiness subsector in general, you now have an idea. You're talking about an institution that has injected over 300 billion since 2010 in this particular space. And a bulk of this, you're talking about grants. So this show, for you who is out there and has an entrepreneurial mind, this is really where you need to be keenly paying attention. And I'm sure we'll get some of those interesting questions and comments coming through. Charles, I'll move to you on this. We've been telling people, giving them principles of building successful businesses.
Correct.
Most of our people, SMEs, actually related to agriculture, even those that are, seem to be away from primary production. And it seems now we're adding another element, a very critical element to ticking the right boxes in business, and that is being green sensitive, for lack of a better word, or looking at the sustainability aspects of issues. I don't know how you look at that and contextualize it.
Ugandans will appreciate that this conversation is extremely integral to the message we have been advocating for years. The statistics that were shared when we were celebrating the World Environment Day placed Uganda as number 12 in terms of vulnerability in respect to climate change. Can you imagine a country with a lot of rivers, a lot of forest cover, is number 12 in the risk of getting things out of hand? That should wake us up. And it's no longer a distant thing. It's almost routine. If it is not Kisoro, Kasese, it is Bulambuli, it is Elgon region.
Yes.
If it's not that, Karamoja will also be saying it has happened. It is happening. So here is the message. The majority of Ugandans are living and making a living out of agribusiness. Yeah. Why? Because it is what you call the low-hanging fruit for entering enterprise sector. Now, if we're all going there, and we're going there using the old ways of extraction, and living environment take care of itself, it doesn't take us very long to destroy it. It's time to go there, but asking a question saying, my garden last year gave me this harvest in terms of maize crop. How come this year it's not giving me the same? And you saw how your road, the road that you not to have too many gullies, the gullies are now so big that you have shifted the road. In the villages, that's what they do. When a road gets a lot of gullies, you just shift it to the next area of the land and leave the gully continuing. But as the gully is giving a picture, something also is happening in your gardens. your soils are being washed. And the remaining soils are no longer what we call loam soil. It is the hard soil which cannot sustain properly plant life. Yeah. Now that takes us to what we teach in Enterprise Uganda and in BDS, and that's why I love the Enterprise, AB model. Grants without education do the opposite. You create a monster who is dependent on you, and a monster who only gets worse because he has just learned to receive the easy way. But when you tell them that, please, we are giving you support, but as we do this, beware now. Business is no longer the way it used to be. In the 5 pillars of enterprise management, there's a pillar on operations. How do you reconfigure your operations in farming to ensure that you are so efficient and you take advantage of that efficiency to perform well in the marketplace? So that will now lead you to saying, some water came. I'm no longer going to allow water to flow the way it used to flow. I'm going to learn a way of trying to put it somewhere. However short it can take. That's what I've done. We have got iron sheet houses now in the villages. Try and get a way of channeling this water somewhere. You wake up in the morning, you work from 8 up to 5, up to 11, you are not doing anything. Be digging a hole where you can be channeling water to, and then later you can just remove that water again and use it. Practical things that attend to green reality. So when you do that, your operations will begin to be more different than a person who is still waiting for nature. Because your tomatoes will be available during a dry season. But the tomatoes are supported by the water that otherwise would have gone somewhere and knocked somebody's house or created a gully in the road. Now the water is bringing tomatoes. You see how that is getting better for you? You are getting a crop at the point where nobody's having it. Your price is so premium that you must do more water conservation in the next season because it's rewarding. So people should never see green growth as if it's some Western philosophy. It's a philosophy that is here, and if you can get ways that can make you benefit from what this one is doing, pushing you to do, you actually earn more money than otherwise if things were easy and you are depending on nature.
Great. And I think that brings it home. Yes, Richard, you wanted to say something?
Yes, actually, some studies have been done, and indeed, I'm just adding to what Charles is saying. You know, they point to the fact that those farmers who practice such simple technologies on their farm, you know, keep their farms moist, tap the little water that should have gone away and washed away your soils. Farmers who are practicing that will actually experience at least 20 or more % in terms of yield compared to those others that are not practicing. So 20% extra, over and above, is actually very big. That's additional production, additional incomes, additional food, So it's big.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
John, let me move to you, because Charles and Richard here bring in a very important issue. Because many a time when we have this discussion about climate change, recently we had this big summit in Egypt, and it seems to be a discussion for the boardroom. And if you ask many practicing business people on the ground, you'll be shocked. They seem to be living on a different, in a different realm, and the other thing is happening in a different space. I don't know what you can speak, about that to the business people that are watching us.
I think policy issues are very important, and those type of forums, they influence policy at a very high level. And that can only help in when it comes to business, when it comes to green financing, and when it comes to actually livelihoods. The other thing is that in those particular forums, you find people who are actually very favorable in terms of supporting what is happening when it comes to climate change. And they get that opportunity to actually present their views in those particular opportunities, which can only help in the long term. So for businesses, I would say it is good to pay attention to what is happening at policy level, because it has a direct impact on what happens on the ground. years.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I want to move on, John, before I again get the other gentleman into the discussion. Now, I know there is the Green Fund, the Green Challenge Fund, and I know that ABI is really pushing this. If you can elaborate more, about this and the opportunities there are in for our viewers that are watching.
Thank you, Charles. I think if you are involved in one or more of the value chains which we support, and you're either an agribusiness or an NGO or a researcher or a scientist or even a startup, you can actually apply for the Green Challenge Fund when we make calls for proposals. There are also other opportunities for other funds in Uganda, including one that has been recently launched by our sister company, Abi Finance Limited, which is called the Green Finance Fund. So I would really encourage people to look at those opportunities to be able to finance their green business and investments as well.
Beautiful. I hear you. Richard, who qualifies for this? Because I'm sure everyone who is watching is saying, am I eligible? What do I need to do?
Everyone is eligible. Everyone can cause a positive change.
Okay.
To address this scourge of climate. So the Green Challenge Fund comes with that broader approach. It's a funding opportunity. ABI has been running funding windows. A funding window targeting, say, dairy value chain, targeting poultry, targeting pulses, and the like. So the Green Challenge Fund is more or less the same, but it broadens the approach. Covers all the value chains. And also goes beyond the value chains that we have been targeting to the bigger surrounding, the environment, the biodiversity, that helps agriculture to survive. So yes, it brings almost everyone on board, and it's broad-based, and it's addressing climate change in the three strands. One, climate change adaptation, climate change mitigation, and also biodiversity conservation. It's unique in a way that it also looks at supporting those unique innovations that we have not been so much focusing on, and also goes a little lower to support young researchers, young innovators, startups, pilots, because quite often you find these youngsters have those great innovations, the digital, the fintechs, those are residing within our young generation out of school, young researchers, and we are saying, yes, let's not stick to the bigger agribusiness operators, which has been more of our focus as ABI, to go a little lower, attract these innovations so that we broaden our greening program at ABI. So it's broad-based, it's all-inclusive, and can accommodate as much as possible, and goes beyond the value chains we have been supporting to the broader ecosystems that support the sector.
Thank you, Richard. I think it is quite timely, because in some of our shows we've had application developers, youngsters, coming up with brilliant ideas, and one of their biggest challenges has always been monetization of these ideas, and that relates to their failure to attract partnerships that can help them monetize and therefore sustain these brilliant ideas. So I think it's quite a timely intervention, quite good.
It is indeed, and some of these, we actually tried to, as much as possible, support innovators with such ideas. We were open to engaging. Somebody comes, I have this idea, I want to do this, I want to do this, but you kind of support, guide, maybe this can be better, this can be better, and that helps them to put across some competitive proposals. So it has been competitive in a way, but as a new kind of approach, we've tried as much as possible to guide, and help them, align with the guidelines we are putting across, because it's of course we understand it's a learning kind of curve, even as a learning. Maybe also to mention is the Green Challenge Fund is actually a pilot kind of arrangement. Okay. It's an opportunity, you know, for a shorter period of time where we are testing these innovations, and that's why we are open to working with those innovators. So through 2023, we shall also be running, documenting best practices and seeing what can be scaled out. Because one of the conditions actually for successful applicants was the ability to scale up, you know, benefit the larger agribusiness sector and the business sense of it. The idea had to be economically viable, so it is translating into more incomes to this applicant, and so we're looking at something that is not business as usual, but making you actually realize more benefits at the end of the day when you implement it as much as possible.
Beautiful. Charles, I know in a number of our interactions, one of the questions that keeps coming up, how do I build partnerships to grow my business? How do I mobilize funding? Money, capital is the problem, and that kind of thing. Now, with that in mind, I don't know what message you can give, especially our young viewers, the youth, very energetic, very innovative, very creative, you know, on how they can actually make use of some of these initiatives.
It's a good observation, and I want first to associate myself with the remarks from John and Richard. As we progress to access resources globally, conditions will be so explicit that if you don't fulfill the following, you don't qualify for these international resources. And Africa is deficient of development resources. And why do the people who command this kind of global resources require that? This global challenge thing here, when we destroy this thing in Uganda, it affects somebody in the US. They cannot afford to see that happen. It's almost like the way you originate a COVID in a particular city. And somebody says, that thing will reach us. We are going to come for you. Please behave well and control this thing. So the first message Ugandans should appreciate is that they need to respect and restore and preserve environment. Is going to be just the bare minimum. Because the globe now is beginning to see that on the ground here there's what you call geographically Uganda. In the sky, the operation up there has no boundaries. The heating effect is across the entire globe. The ice in the greeny, is it called Greenland? Or Greenland, that country that used to be covered in ice. The thing is melting. The thing is melting. So it is no longer something you can hide in a corner and just say, this is a Western thing. For us here, we can continue our way. So that's number one. Resources will be cheaper, easily accessible when you obey these rules. But I want to encourage Ugandans that don't just do it because of that hidden incentive. Do it because it's for your own good.
Make it a habit.
When you recycle coffee husks, just see the volume of coffee husks that can come out of an acre, and then you put fire on them. What a terrible thing. These people just put fire on the thing. When you remove the cob of the maize, the remaining whatever, it is fire again. Collect the whole thing and put in a certain small corner. At the edge of the garden, burn it there. That stock that you are burning from the maize plant sapped nutrients from the soil. You needed to allow it to rot back into the soil. And that soil would still have those nutrients because you allowed them to go back. So appreciating the need to recycle what we have, maximize the use of what we have, is going to be something we must all do if we are going to compete globally. But just imagine this, when I was growing up, we would have kraals in the region of Tesolan. A kraal will be available for the next 20 years. And what does that mean? The cows move out during daytime to graze. In the evening, they go to that same kraal area. For 20 years, you are not removing anything from that corral to manure the rest of the gardens. Now, obviously, when you later shift the corral, that small area now is so fertile, but the fertility should have been more distributed. It's excessively fertile, but in a wasteful way. Now it is time to say, every day I see a drop of cow dung, preserve it. This is tomato. Look at cow dung as tomatoes. Look at cow dung as a source of fuel. Look at cow dung as something that will give you greenery in the garden. When you see that alone, you are yourself benefiting from this revolution. So I want us to have embraced the thing from a perspective which says, it's not just the Western world imposing this on us, it's good for us because we have been wasteful. These resources have been with us, we are good at burning, we are good at just abandoning. It's time to see where can this be used again. Now that's why your question about the young people comes in. Do you know that the young people have got an open leaf? They are saying, if anything can be defended well for us, we can go with it. We don't know about your traditions in the past. So they are easy to reorientate than our people who have always learned that a cow must sleep in one area for 20 years and you don't lift the dung. Instead, it just gets in the bog and fails to move. So the young people are the best placed people to run with this message and quickly make it a normal way of doing life.
Thank you, Charles. John, I'll get back to you. Now, I know the Green Challenge Fund, you started, to call for just a build-up to where Richard picked it, for people to come and apply and participate in 2022. Again, I know Richard touched a little on how it fared, but I want to get a broader picture. How has it been received, and how is the pilot progressing?
Thank you, Charles. I think we received about over 850 proposals for the Green Challenge Fund. And about half of those actually were very good proposals, which qualified. So the demand was quite overwhelming. We are still in the process of evaluating some of them, and we've also provided some grants on some of them as well. So the process is going on very well.
Okay.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Viewers, on that note, we're going to take a very short commercial break. Again, it's the Business X Ratio, and today we have special guests in the studio. That is Abby, and they're here to discuss mainly matters sustainability, the green economy, and of course the opportunities there are in. Some of them are actually midwifed by Abby itself. Now we'll be picking your views, comments and suggestions in our next segment, so please keep them coming after the break. Dear viewers, welcome back. It's still the Business X Ratio, and today we're looking at, making agriculture or agribusiness resilient in the face of climate change. Like we said previously, climate change is real, and we are contending with at the moment. It has percolated almost in all aspects of our lives: economy, social, and by extension, I would say political as well. Because if people have nothing to eat, or if it has affected the macroeconomic stability of the country, then at the end of the day it boils down to that. But before we went for the break, of course, John had really made a submission about the initiatives that ABI is doing to really support the greening of the economy. We talked about the Green Challenge and what it has done, who is eligible, and that kind of thing. Then Richard also mentioned, and Richard, before I move on, I'd like you to again speak more to that. The special groups or the particular segments of society that you are touching with this aspect or with the Green Challenge.
Okay. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, the Green Challenge Fund is broad-based, and it's tackling, all principles of green growth, And that means it's not only about, addressing climate change, ensuring resilience and whatever businesses, but we're also looking at making those other vulnerable communities in society, able to sail through this kind of environment where climate change is affecting every sector of the economy. So we are open to working, and actually it's now a condition, as a guideline. All the support that goes out there must have a component of reaching out to those communities that are vulnerable, that are suffering. They are excluded, out of the benefiting bracket, So there must be a deliberate effort to bring out those, and these are mainly the youth. Uganda is largely a youth population. So if you don't target the youth, then you are missing out. They are the ones with energy. They have all sorts of good ideas. So we must see how we can target them to bring out the best from them. The women, agriculture is organized in Uganda in a way that, you must have those factors of production for you to be able to manage, to sail through. But, women do not have land. They do not have most of the resources that are required. Yet, they provide most of the labor, for this work. When you go to the garden, it's the woman digging. But it's digging, the woman is digging, and the man will come and actually manage the harvesting and negotiate the selling. Yeah, so we are saying, let women not only stop at doing the farm work. Let's also engage them to be part of the planning arrangement. What are we going to plant this season? If possible, they should be engaged in also mobilizing, those inputs, so that they are part and parcel of the planting and actually planning the entire activity, but also benefiting from the same. So we are encouraging farming as a family business, to bring everyone on board, start the farming, but also benefit from it. So we are as broad as that. Then also we are looking at also reaching out to the refugees. Uganda, you must be aware that it's one of the, I think it's the leading refugee hosting country in Africa, and of course it has a good position in the world. So we are looking at how best can we also reach out to these, and these are vulnerable young men and women, from neighboring countries. They have been, affected in one way or another, and they are brought in an area which is more or less enclosed. They don't have those resources that they need to produce, yet they want to feed, they want to cook, they need firewood, they need all sorts of requirements for them to survive. So how are we reaching out to them? So we are also deliberately reaching out to this, so that we support a program that is socially inclusive, but also, environmentally sustainable, looking at all those aspects broadly to make sure that we support a sector and bring out each and every one in more or less an equal opportunity. So we are looking at this equal opportunity kind of arrangement where everyone at all stages of growth should be able to participate. And I must also add that these initiatives are not like regional, specific, although most of these value chains we find they do more in different regions. But basically we are targeting the entire country. All those innovations that can be, supported, they are innovative, and they are in each and, anywhere in the country. They should be able to be reached. And as I said, being a pilot, we are testing. We should be able to actually have more resources that can reach, at least, and cause a bigger impact down in the sector.
Thank you. Viewers, it's again the Business X-Ray, and tonight, or this afternoon in the studio, we have the Group CEO, ABI, John Wakiomu, is with us. We have Richard Mwesigwa is the Sustainability Specialist from ABI, and Charles Ochichi from Enterprise Uganda, the Executive Director. So it's an interesting discussion and debate. Well, it presents opportunities for people in the agribusiness subsector that are keen on sustainability, but then also it gives very good information, the awareness about the world, where we are and where we are going. So John, we've had quite some interesting discussion. We've talked about, where you're coming from with this, and probably in the mind of the viewer watching, they must be wondering, have some Ugandan businesses or operators benefited from this initiative yet? And what has been the experience? Is it happening?
Yes, this initiative was launched late last year, and between December and January, we've actually funded 10 particular organizations, and 5 of them have already received their first disbursement. Yes, so it is operating, and we are still going to approve more before the end of this quarter and fund more organizations as well.
I hear you. How is the operation going? How are they, responding from where you sit?
They're responding very enthusiastically because of the innovativeness. For example, one of the things that we had required in our previous funding windows was that they provide their own contribution to the particular project. That requirement has actually been dropped so that you're able to get a grant without having to provide your own contribution. And that has been received very well. And so far, I think we've disbursed about 1.38 billion shillings to these 5 particular organizations. And then the other 5 are waiting to get their first disbursement. And then we are looking at providing additional 10 of them before the end of this year. So we still continue to get good feedback in terms of how things are going. But at the same time, we are going to try and engage them more to make sure that we are moving in the right direction.
I get you.
Yes.
Now, John, before I bring in Charles again, I know the number of, Ugandans who probably, some might be watching this for the first time, but others have been contemplating about this. They know about what's happening. Climate change is real, and there's a lot of initiatives that are supporting, businesses that are sensitive or compliant in that manner. But many may not know or do not know what they need to do to actually comply, to actually put, like they say, their ducks in line so that they can participate or qualify for some of these initiatives. I don't know what you can say to them.
What I can say to them is if they have innovative ideas which are green, they need to look for opportunities, particularly for us when we make calls for proposals for these particular opportunities as well. And then also to look for ways to work with entities like Enterprise Uganda, who provide business development services, to be able to give them the capacity so that they're able to access these opportunities when they present themselves.
Does it matter the size of my operation? Does it matter where I'm located?
Not at all, not at all. Yeah, because we go all the way from ideation to acceleration to growth stage of companies. Yes.
Charles, I know you play a very important role there in preparing the minds and some of these businesses. I don't know what you can speak to them.
Yes. When people hear about green funding opportunities, I want them to keep one thing in mind, which is its sustainability. It's not how beautiful the idea looks like. That idea must have a chance in the marketplace. It must have, you can now see the way B is doing, it's not that you sit somewhere and then we reward you for your idea, then you go away. You come with the idea, which idea you are likely to go ahead and implement.
Yes.
So anybody going for this kind of opportunities must respect the fact that the idea you are going for is going to be tested in the marketplace. If it doesn't fly, it's too academic. You are not in a research center where you are just collecting some beautiful ideas, then they say, this is so good. Here is your $2,000, go. Then let's get this idea to somebody somewhere to progress with it. It is you developing the idea, seeing how it will actually be actualized, and then saying this is the resource requirement. And then you come with it to the market, to a potential partner like AB to finance. So my message is simple. Go for those very, very practical, innovative ideas which you can run with as soon as you can. And do not be driven by the fact that, oh, but this one will require only $7,000. I think this is not a good one. Go for something that really works, rather than saying, I want something of $1 million, and then the money comes, and you are struggling and you look bad. Business people must remain business-oriented. The period between conceptualization, testing, whatever, and actual getting into the marketplace must be as concise as possible. Don't go for those ideas that will remain on the paper for a long time. After all, whatever has been innovated by somebody, the next day can be improved by another person. So get going and come to Abby and say, this is where I am. After all, they can actually give you more ideas on how to make it work. It's not a test. I know Abby very well. Abby is practical. Abby is not looking for people to get marks. They want to assist you to progress and change this country. So please do not wait somewhere and just say, but how's my English? How's you know, this, will anybody read this? Go to Richard, go to John, and just say, this is the thing. We've even piloted it. This is what came out. Now we wanted to do the following. That following is where the discussion will take place, and then the thing will be shaped, and the resources may be released.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to thank you, Charles, for bringing this out. Most of the technologies we are seeing being, piloted by these innovators are actually local.
You see?
You are looking at, for instance, this very local water harvesting technology, which you can channel within your, say, 1 acre and have that water collected, one from the runoff, but also the dropping water. You don't need to have a roof on your farm to collect, water.
You see?
But again, there are people who have, you have an iron sheet, roofed house, and you leave this water always to and actually, most of the runoff, especially, let's look back in our home areas, in our villages. You'll find most of the runoff around the homestead is caused by the running water from the roof.
Correct.
Why can't you tap this water as, using the most local means, and you make use of that water? And that's what we are talking about. If I'll look at, for instance, the cattle corridor, you've seen cattle drop dead because of lack of pastures, because it's too dry. All the pastures are dry. It's actually dust. No water for drinking, and the animal will be there for a week, 2 weeks, and the next week it drops off dead. What can you, as a farmer of this cattle that how can you save? I mean, will you sit and know, yes, I will experience maybe 2 long dry seasons in the year, so I expect to lose half of my cows, always. So I'm there, I'm comfortable. What can you do to have, to save your cows? Why can't you look at maybe, dry feeding technology? How can I harvest this grass, for instance, and keep it, preserve it for that bad day when it's raining? I mean, when it's dry. How can I get maybe water from the underground? How can I drill? Locally we drill these water wells, right? And at least in Uganda we are lucky. At least we are not that dry that you not get water some meters down.
The water table is.
It's so. So we are saying these are technologies that we can innovate around our farms. You don't need to have a Muzungu somewhere or someone from Kampala to come and help you to manage your farm. So these are the innovations. So when we talk about the Green Challenge Fund, it's not anything out of the blue. These are things actually we have been
simple
doing.
ideas.
Simple ideas.
What we live with every day. And I think that's a very important point to you, our viewers, because we've been talking about eligibility and what kind of ideas can actually, sit into this space. And you can see these are the things we do every day. They are day-to-day activities. And you know what is interesting is that if you look at our ancestors, the way they used to preserve the environment. It seems that somewhere in the middle we moved away from that. Because some of these initiatives like mulching,
Yes.
Making sure that you preserve water and everything,
Yes.
really they've been done in the past.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere in the middle we lost,
Yeah.
our way. But yeah, that's where we are. John, I want to come to you before I bring in Charles on this, like the anticipated challenges or risk as you roll out this. It's a good initiative. We need it, given the problems we have. But I'm very sure, like every good thing, you got to imagine the challenges, because again, we want it sustained. We're talking about sustainability.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
I think, first of all, like Richard has mentioned, this is a pilot we are piloting. So even as we have a lot to learn during implementation, we are obviously getting a lot of good advice in terms of how to implement.
Okay.
But these are unforeseen challenges. They are foreseen challenges which we will have to deal with when we cross that bridge. The other thing is that we hope that the development partners will continue to support climate initiatives, because if that support is not there, then there's going to be business disruptions. So that is something that we need to be cognizant of. But it is a learning process. We're going to learn with our partners as we go along, and we deal with the challenges as they come.
Okay.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Charles, what do you add to that?
My observation is this: Uganda should not take this as another opportunity to go and fake an idea. Access a resource, because you want that resource to go and tackle your unpaid loan somewhere. I know the way ABI operates. There are people who move around. Please, if you think you cannot implement a particular idea, do not concoct an application. Just be direct. Let's make this work. The 300 billion that has come to this country, it has come from our partners, the Danish, the European Union. They would want to bring more of that. And as a country, let's demonstrate that we can absorb this money and create the impact that it should be creating.
Okay.
It would be almost against the norms and the desires of this intervention for us to end up with good reading paperwork, and then on the ground we're peripheral. I want Ugandans who come to this to actually say, this is what are the hoped would happen. Come and see what has come out. It is phenomenal. Even me, I'm shocked. It's beautiful. Spread the message.
I hear you.
So I want us to go for this thing, to make it work, assist the team at ABI to make it work. I've been in banking. I was in development finance at PTA Bank in Nairobi. People come with proposals, and then they say, okay, the bank, you'll give the 60% of the project investment. The other 40%, I have the resources. What are some of the sources? I have a land in Kololo. I'll sell it. The fellow has not had a discussion with the family. The bank resources of 60% arrive. The 40% is a big story. And part of it is taxes for imports, part of it for power connection. The other 60% has arrived. The project can take off because you just made sure that you fulfill the so-called 46 thing on paper. But in your mind, you knew, I will get away, I will get away. In your mind, you are saying, I'm going to employ a certain man with caliber for a hotel. Yes. Then you say, no, but my son, my uncle has got a person who can be, he has a degree in leisure. Those shortcuts, they catch up in business.
Talking about shortcuts, Charles, and I think you can speak to this as well. I mean, you can have a scenario where ABI calls for proposals. Someone gets very good brains. They put together a very nice proposal. Now, what is in the proposal is very different with what is on the ground or what is going to be implemented. I really want you to speak to that, because I mean, that's not sustainable either, and we've seen it.
Correct.
Good thing with your bank experience.
Yeah.
You know that there are businesses that develop very nice plans.
Yeah.
And those plans are on paper. Correct. You can't see them anywhere.
And that's the message. Today, there's what they call Mr. Google.
Yeah.
They go in there, pick up ideas, and yeah, this one looks good. Maybe I can just repackage it a little, touch up here and there, and then throw it to ABI. it is disingenuous for you to take that route.
Yeah.
Because I suspect ABI has got, anyway, I'm not, but I suspect there's a way they follow project implementation. At this stage, this is the resource envelope you need. At this stage, you should be at this stage. At this stage, we should be coming to check. Those are the elements that are likely to be part of this challenge fund. And let's take it in good faith that we want these funds. By the way, should you succeed in one, most likely where you wanted to stop, ABI can just say, what do you need for you to make this thing go across the country? What a beautiful question. But it came from the effort that you exerted into the initial stage. And then the funder just says, this saves the country. Let us, out of the 30 billion we had, we were talking of a maximum of 1 billion to one per intervention. In your case, we're going to the board. This is a game changer. We're going to the board, just the thing, you go for 5 billion. So I think it's one thing to come up with a beautiful idea and struggle to implement it and can be noted. Quite another for you to come up with a beautiful idea and you depart from it completely. That also can be picked. And those days, or the days of that kind of cavalier way of doing things are getting more and more complicated and difficult to get in this country, especially with resources from partners.
Beautiful, beautiful, Charles.
Yeah.
Viewers, this is an icebreaker for a number of series we're going to have on this show. We're going to bring actual people that have actually received support from ABI and are doing some of the ideas on some of the things that we are discussing. In our subsequent shows on the Business X, we're going to actually have pick the minds, the testimonies of the people that are actually doing it on the ground. And I'm sure, Charles, people will actually learn a lot, John, from these experiences.
Indeed, yes. And we look forward to having those engagements and having our partners come and showcase what it is they've done on the ground and how it has impacted them and their businesses.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, time to go into the questions. I see quite a number of questions have come in already and comments. You can keep them coming in because this is now the section where we address some of your comments coming in. So I have Martin from Chengera. Martin is saying many thanks for the Green Growth Program. I want to appreciate the panelists for emphasizing local solutions and the need for agribusiness enterprises to focus on profitability. It is important to use data and information to make decisions in agriculture. What type of enterprises that generate data and information to help farmers in making decisions about which crops to grow better are you supporting? In other words, are you supporting any players in that provide data, to help farmers in making decisions about the crops, to grow? Probably someone is sitting in that particular sector. So I think Richard, you can pick that, and then John can complement before we go to the next question. We'll pick one at a time.
Okay, thank you. Surely, if you are, say, a farmer or an SME out there, you must, for instance, I can't say go and do maize. Yeah. Maize does better. Beans do better. No, as an SME, as a practitioner, you know which crop maybe you have a better advantage over, which you can engage in, because you have maybe studied or engaged or practiced locally, and you want to take it to another level that can be more economically viable and make business sense for you. Yeah. Otherwise, yes, studies are out there. There are many research institutions which are producing most of this information. Makere is there, FAO is there, and many other institutions that can help you, look at, for instance, the business case, for each of these enterprises, and then you can choose to say, okay, maybe I can go for this. It can do wonders for me. Okay. So it remains the choice of the practitioner to see what best enterprise to engage in. Yeah.
I hear you. So John, are you helping any people, any players in data generation or information generation to support farmers?
I think under the Green Challenge Fund, that is something we are going to be looking at, particularly to use that data to provide agricultural advisory services.
I hear you.
Yeah, that is where the value add is, so that you can actually provide information to farmers that is actually useful to them to be able to do the activities.
Beautiful.
And that is one area where we are going to look at.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, I have another one from a gentleman from Kampala. He's saying, what kind of business, and I think Charles, you can weigh in on this one as well, a sustainable business can I do in Kampala, which is responsive to the green elements?
Quite a number of businesses, for instance. We have had, and we have many of the many implementing partners, for instance, doing poultry, doing processing of different agricultural products, maize, rice, and others. Even cattle, we have, cattle businesses. I mean, here we are talking about agriculture. What can I do in? So it can be in Kampala, it can be elsewhere. Like I said, it depends on what you feel you should best do. Otherwise, all businesses, all agricultural, related businesses can be done in Kampala, and in the center actually. We have, because we have quite a number of such that we are supporting. Well, most of these will be processing businesses, and those are also, the businesses we are targeting to make sure that when they are doing their processing activities, then they are not, they are green. They are greening. They are using, green principles to do their processing work, not to pollute the air around Kampala and the like. So we are encouraging use of cleaner technologies to do your processing, especially now that you are in the city, so that you don't be one of those to be counted as a contributor to this global climate change. Thank you.
Charles, anything you would like to add on that?
Yeah, the list could be long. He has mentioned the aspects of enterprises that you can start in the city. The one that used to be common here now is a little bit decreasing is mushroom growing. Takes a small area. You can handle so many things within a very tiny space, and you can start making your money. But you could also do what some people are now doing. We're closer to water sources where fish is picked fresh. But you might want to season it, to dry it, and you can do that in a green way. And just say, okay, this fish, the supply is a bit much today, let me buy what is not being taken, do processing of that fish, and then put it back to the market. So the aspects of doing business in a grow-related direction in the city, there are so many options. One just needs to move around and just see what are people doing that I can also start from. And I don't encourage you to be the first. In the city here, don't be the first. We are not going to buy from me because you are the first to have started seasoning fish. We are coming for good fish.
Make it quality.
Yes.
That's a good one. Beautiful. Yes. I have Joseph from NTV, and I'll direct this to John. He's saying, hello, thanks for the fruitful presentation. My inquiry is, how do we get to know about the financing opportunities by partners, and what is the procedure of submitting the proposals? I think he's a bit touched by, of course, these opportunities, the Green Fund and all that. So because of course one of the areas is watching this show, the Business X-Ray, and watching NTV because it's a partner in this. John, you can pick it from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. I think one of the things, when we do calls for proposal, we normally advertise it on our website. www.rbi.co.ug. So if you can regularly go to that website and see when we have calls for proposals, then you'll be able to get the information you need. In addition to that, there are quite a number of funds that are available to provide access to green financing. And you can always try and Google and get a list of most of those funds in Uganda. And then you can contact additional organizations like Enterprise Uganda to see how you can work with them to be able to access some of these opportunities. Yes.
Beautiful. And I think, again, because I had someone again who was asking about access, but then I think that has been answered.
Maybe if I can add to that.
But you can add to that, yes.
Yeah. Beyond the website, I mean, we also share these calls on different platforms, the print media, social media platforms, and also word of mouth. Most of I've interacted with many who actually get this information from, you know, people we have worked with.
Yes.
So that's also a good way that we can also use. So it's we try to publicize it as much as possible, and maybe to add that always these funds are accessed competitively. You know, you have to share your idea. It's vetted. You know, then the most successful are the ones that are picked and supported. So many will say, yes, I've tried as much as possible, applied, but I've not been successful. And we try to encourage them to come over, you know, share with us their ideas and see why are they not successful always, you know. So then we understand and guide them so that, you know, in the next round they can best present themselves, and then they can be picked.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, now you've answered again. Another person was asking the same question. So Charles, there's a part of the question which I want you to address. Someone is saying, thanks for the show, beautiful ideas. But please help me understand what blocks us in Africa, and Uganda in particular, from implementing some of these progressive ideas?
Good question. The first thing when it comes to ideas like this is try to break away from what you call the way I've always done things. Be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. If you're close-minded, you'll find this extremely difficult to accommodate. But just see the way we've been giving examples here. You begin to see that these things are closer to our everyday experience. And if you had just listened a little bit more, you'd have been able to walk into the space and start doing it. So being open to new thinking is a key thing that Africans need to appreciate. Number two, you must have not your tomorrow kind of gratification. Whatever you are competing for is likely to give you rewards, not tomorrow, not next month. It could be in a year's time, it could be in 3 years' time. But the promise and the integral benefit is right in there. So if we are going to go into these spaces, beware that along the way there might be a bit of waiting for you to start reaping massively. And that shouldn't be something to put you off. And then of course the other thing is that let us be as honest as we can. Do not package something to impress the other party when you feel that it's unlikely to see the light of the day. It should be something practical. So if we can get this happening in Africa, we will begin to see these things flowing to this continent. And then finally, be celebrating about something that only benefits you, but benefits a bigger community. Whatever success you've achieved, let it be shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. John, I have someone here. He's called Emmanuel Mugisa. He's from Gayaza. He's saying, okay, his question is long, but he's saying, how sure am I that if I share my idea with Abby, they are safe?
Common way.
Yeah, so I think the kind of people that we've always discussed, my idea to me. Yes, John.
That is it's a tricky question.
Yes.
But Abby is an organization that is full of integrity.
Yes.
Yes, and that is what's one of our key values. And we are here actually as a social enterprise to support the agricultural sector in Uganda.
Yes.
And that is our main motivation for actually even providing these opportunities for people to be able to participate. So they be rest assured that we have no ulterior motives when we get into interaction with them, particularly when it comes to the ideas. And we are there to support them and to guide them.
I'll add to that.
Please.
Most likely, that idea is going to get into the outer space through him and his way of doing things. Abby is so organized that they are not into idea selling. But two, if they are also going to ideas that remain hanging in their heads for too long, they should imagine, they should know that they are not the only ones doing the thinking. Somebody somewhere will pick it and improve it. Before they know it, it is the idea but improved. You can take it to any court of law, you'll not win. Because it has been modified.
Great.
So somebody should not overlose his sleep because how do I protect the idea?
Yes.
Get yourself into the field and move with it. Yes.
It could be actually a wrong idea until you test it. Great. Now I have John. John is from UCU, your namesake John, and I'll put it to you. Our last question. There are quite a number, but we don't have enough time to really go through them, I'm afraid. So he's a student at UCU. He's saying, does ABI have space for students as well when they come up with innovative ideas for support?
Absolutely. We're targeting actually youth in particular with innovative ideas under the ideation in particular, the ideation category of the Green Challenge Fund. And we support them in that particular category, particularly when we know the youth are very good with the use of technology. And we find that there is a need for that particular type of support by targeting that particular group.
Thank you, John. Viewers, I'm afraid we really don't have enough time for a number of these questions, but the beauty is that we're going to have a series of shows specifically addressing matters green. So we will be picking some of those ideas going forward. So keep them coming. We'll offload as we move. We still have quite a number of shows coming on this particular subject. So Richard, I'll come to you. What would be your last word to the listeners as we wrap this up?
Yeah, thank you once again. Yes, my last word is that viewers and practitioners out there, let's embrace this movement, this agenda of greening our investments, because it's the way to go. You can only survive in this era when you are actually able to sail through this, turbulent climate change environment. So let's embrace these technologies that can help improve our productivity, but also enhance our production and later on incomes and associated benefits. Maybe before I go away, I also want to mention that as earlier I think hinted on, this is just the beginning of this series of engagements. We have quite a number ahead where we shall be bringing those practitioners on the ground, in the field, to come and share with us what they've been able to do and the benefits they are seeing associated with these kind of investments. And so then, when you hear from, the horse's mouth, then you can know that these things, are real and are helpful and can take our sector forward. So keep tuned to this kind of show, same time on Sundays. We shall be announcing this so that we can benefit as much as possible.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. John?
Yes. I would like to say that everybody recognizes that climate change is real. It is not a specialized area, it is not an add-on, and it needs to be tackled head-on. And this is something that ABI has recognized, and we are going to be very, very focused on this area so that we can support the agricultural sector in Uganda.
Beautiful, beautiful. Charles, how do we wrap this up?
I'm glad to be part of this panel this evening, and I want to say that Uganda should really make it a must attend every Sunday as long as we are having this show going on. Largely because, one, we have a partner that has come with other partners to come and support innovative ideas to save our environment. And the way ABI is doing it, it is no longer just about you benefiting, but you generating an idea that can be scaled for the benefit of Uganda. And for that, there's a support resource, which is brilliant. And I want to thank the team from ABI, both John and Richard, for bringing this message to the country.
And in 1 minute, Charles, we seem to have paid a lot of attention to the small guys. They're the big guys as well. The big players. Medium to large.
Very, very true. And when you hear ABI talking about a value chain, there's always somebody large somewhere. And that large person has got so much benefit for the fellows at the back of the lane. Because whatever they are doing up there in terms of green growth, governance, social inclusivity, they want the same principles to trickle right down the entire value chain. So that's the beauty of what ABI is doing. It's not just having only crowded small fellows playing around their field. There is somebody up somewhere saying this works, this has taken me to the global stage. Anybody who is a part of my value chain must walk the talk, so, which is very beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, viewers, and we don't take your participation and audience for granted. We really appreciate that you're here. Again, it's the Business X-Ray Show, and we've been talking about how do we build resilience in agriculture or agribusiness towards the new reality that has befallen us, and that is climate change. We've all tested what it can do. It's rough, and we are still feeling it, unless definitely we change, adapt, and become better producers. So we'll be discussing that topic a lot more going forward. I've been your host, Charles Boji. In the studio this evening, we had the CEO, ABI Development, Mr. John Wakyum. You're most welcome, and it's been nice to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Beautiful. And Richard Mwesigwa is the Sustainability Specialist from ABI, or ABI.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
And as usual, our resident coach, Charles Ochiji from Enterprise Uganda. We're honored.
Thank you.
Until next time, I've been your host once again, Charles Boji. Have a good evening and God bless.